Oh, come on, you can do better than that. Good afternoon. Awesome. Okay, one of the panels that I went to was the 6 Decades of UN Commission on Status of Women. And 2 of the main groups that were in this panel, they gave us lots of paperwork, by the way. It took me forever to shuffle through all of it just to find this packet. Was the Manicure Women Gun Survivor Network that was founded in December 24th, 2004 by Ms. Benalaskini Nepram, an attempt to help women in Manipur and other armed violence affected areas whose lives have been affected because of the gun killings of a family member, whether be it by state, non-state actors, or unidentified gunmen. And then the other group was the Control Arms Foundation of India, and it was founded on September 10th, 2004 in New Delhi by a group of concerned citizens from all across the country to addressing the rising armed violence and weaponization in India. I'm going to give you some statistics that was very startling to me and really started to make me kind of shake and get scared. I don't know if this would do the same thing, but I hope it does. 1 billion rising campaign to end violence against women and girls states 1 in 3 women on the planet will be raped or beaten in her lifetime. 72 million children, 54% of them girls, are out of school, and about 1 billion women fall short of economic potential. 50% of women who die from homicides worldwide are killed by their current/former husbands/partners. Women perform 66% of the world's work, produce 50% of the food, but earn only 10% of the income. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, giving women farmers the same access as men to fertilizers, seeds, tools, and other types of support would raise agricultural outputs enough to feed 100 to 150 million hungry people. And according to the World Bank, eliminating all forms of discrimination against women in employment could increase productivity per worker by up to 40%. 40%, and we're in this economic disaster globally. Think about it, put the pieces together. 40%. The rest of this packet gives an overview of the history. I'm not sure, how much time do I have? Okay. Well, let's see. In 1975, the General Assembly declared that that year was the marker for the International Women's Year and organized the first World Conference on Women held in Mexico City and declared the years 1976 to 1985 as the UN Decade for Women. In 1979, the General Assembly adopted the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, which is often described as an international Bill of Rights for women, and it is the first human rights treaty to affirm the reproductive rights of women. In 1985, the World Conference to review and appraise the achievements of the United Nations Decade for Women, Equality, Development, and Peace was convened in Nairobi. The event, which many described as the birth of global feminism. An early result of the Nairobi Conference was the transformation of the Voluntary Fund for the UN Decade for Women into the UN Development Fund for Women, UNIFEM, now part of UN Women. The fourth World Conference on Women held in Beijing in 1995 went a step further than the Nairobi Conference. The Beijing Platform for Action asserted women's rights as human rights and committed to specific actions to ensure respect for those rights. And I would like to further move on to the UN Secretary Council Resolution 1325. In 2000, the United Nations Security Council formally acknowledged through the creation of Resolution 1325 the changing nature of warfare in which civilians are increasingly targeted and women continue to be excluded from participation in peace processes. UNSCR 1325 addresses not only the inordinate impact of war on women, but also the pivotal role women should and do play in conflict management, conflict resolution, and substantial peace. And then there is eliminating violence against women. In 2007, the theme of the International Women's Day was ending impunity for violence against women and girls. And on the 25th of February, 2008, Mr. Ban Ki-moon launched the Secretary General's global campaign, Unite, to End Violence Against Women. In opening the multi-year global campaign, he called violence against women an issue that cannot wait. Then there was the United Nations Security Council Resolution of 1820. UNSC Resolution 1820, 2008, which noted the rape and other forms of sexual violence can constitute war crimes, crimes against humanity, or a constitutive act with respect to genocide. It has also affirmed the Council's intention when establishing and renewing state-specific sanction regimes to consider imposing targeted and graduated measures against warring factions who committed rape and other forms of violence against women and girls. The resolution also noted that women and girls are particularly targeted by the use of sexual violence, including, in some cases, as a tactic of war to humiliate, dominate, instill fear in, disperse, and or forcibly relocate civilian members of a community or ethnic groups. Where are world women after 6 decades of UN Commission on Status of Women? The United Nations commitments to the advancement of women began with the signing of the UN Charter in San Francisco in 1945. 1945, you're all. 1945. I'm just saying, 6 decades. Of the 160 signatories, only 4 were women. Minerva Bernardino, Dominican Republic; Virginia Gildersleeve, United States; Bertha Lutz, Brazil; and Wu Yifang, China. But they succeeded in instructing women's rights in the founding documents of the United Nations, which reaffirms in its preamble faith in fundamental human rights and the dignity of the human person and the equal rights of men and women and of nations large and small. During the inaugural meeting of the UN General Assembly in London in February of 1946, Eleanor Roosevelt, a United States delegate, read an open letter addressed to the women of the world this end. We call on the governments of the world to encourage women everywhere to take a more active part in national and international affairs, and on women who are conscious of their opportunities to come forward and share in the work of peace and reconstruction as they did in war and resistance. A few days later, a subcommission dedicated to the status of women was established under the Commission on Human Rights. On June 21, 1946, the subcommission formally became the Commission on the Status of Women, CSW, a full-fledged commission dedicated to ensuring women's equality and to promoting women's rights. Shortly thereafter, the Section on the Status of Women of the UN Secretariat, which would become the Division for the Advancement of Women in 1978, was established in the Human Rights Division of the United Nations to provide Secretariat functions. Gender equality is, first and foremost, a human right. Women are entitled to live in dignity and in freedom from want and from fear. Empowering women is also an indispensable tool for advancing development and reducing poverty. Even after 6 decades, we are yet to see a world which has achieved gender justice. I learned a lot from this trip, and it was very awesome, and I strongly encourage if anyone in here is interested in going to talk to Dr. Tuttle or one of us about going next year, because it is the best experience you will ever have in your lifetime. Thank you.